Look, I have been a Honda guy for my entire life, and if anyone would have asked me what's the best car under 30 grand, I would have said the Civic, the vehicle that is made by God Himself. But a few days ago, I came across this Mazda 3, which I found out to be quite interesting. So I did a bit more research into it, and before I knew it, I spent more than 7 hours watching videos, reading articles, forums, which I'll tell you about in the next 3 minutes. But I think after all of this, it might be time for me to change teams. Every car these days comes with those LED directional turn indicators. The Mazda 3 also has LED turn indicators, but they are not directional and they look like this. If I owned a Mazda 3, I would use them just to show off. In fact, if Mazda 3 is given to BMW owners, they might become habitual of using the turn signals. The Civic has a decent interior with nice and clicky buttons, but it does look a bit cheap and mass-produced. And that's because the Civic is cheap and mass-produced. And it's perfectly fine. The Civic is made by God Himself. The Mazda, well, it's in a league of its own. It is designed better, it uses better materials, and it is cheaper than the Civic. It's a win-win-win situation. The Civic is made here in America, which is nice because it gives jobs to American people. But the Mazda 3 is made in Japan, and I think there is something very cool about owning a Japanese car that is made in Japan and then exported all the way to the US and you buy it here. It's basically a JDM import with warranty, and it makes you feel just that little bit more special. And while the Civic is as ubiquitous as Seawash, no, that is a bad example. While the Civic is as ubiquitous as the bright sunshine just after a winter snowstorm, the Mazda 3 on the other hand is quite unique and you're far less likely to see one, which makes it so much more special to own. And continuing our specialness, have you even seen the thing? It easily looks far better than cars which cost more than twice or even thrice the money. And it is one of the very few vehicles that you can get with a manual transmission in 2026. Heck, even the GTI does not get one, let alone a Golf R. And the Mazda 3 also has the biggest displacement engine in its class, full 2.5 liters of the stuff. And it's not like you're stuck with a sluggish CVT here. You get a traditional 6-speed torque converter automatic, which is going to be a breeze while driving compared to the CVT. And if you're curious, which I know you probably are, here is the list of all the car companies who have never ever made a CVT. And if you look closely, Mazda is the only mainstream brand here. All others are luxury car brands. And this is the bit which made me really fall in love with Mazda. You see, they are a very small company. They are even smaller than Nissan, and yet they are trying to cater to this highly niche market of car enthusiasts, the people who enjoy driving, just like you and me. Most people these days prefer big screens, panoramic sunroofs, voice-activated fuckery and others. Yet, Mazda is not catering to that audience. Mazda is what BMW used to be in the early 90s, before the accountants took over and started designing plastic oil pans. And they have far less R&D budget than BMW ever did, even back in the 90s. Yet, they're trying to make cars for people like you and me, which is frankly awesome. But still, the Mazda is not perfect, and there are still 3 key areas where the Civic is still the undisputed king. Firstly, space. The Civic has larger dimensions than the Mazda 3. It is simply a larger car. And when you give that already large space to Honda engineers, which are just geniuses of packaging, just ask any Odyssey or Honda Fit owner, you are left with a lot of space. And the next thing is fuel economy. You can get the Civic with a hybrid with just sips fuel, whereas Mazda drinks like you after a breakup, although not as hopelessly. And when you compare the Mazda's figure to the non-hybrid Civic, the difference is far less significant. The last area where the Civic reigns supreme is ride and handling. So, the Civic comes with an independent rear suspension. So, if these are the two rear wheels, then if one wheel hits a bump, the other one remains completely unaffected by it. Whereas the Mazda 3 comes with a dependent rear suspension, which means if one wheel hits a bump, it slightly affects the other. It really is a matter of needs and preferences. It depends on what your priorities are. Me personally, as a proud owner of the Honda Fit, I would have obviously went with the Civic, but I think now I would prefer the Mazda more. But you really cannot go wrong with either of these cars. Both of them would last a really long time without breaking the bank. And well, that's it for this video, and thank you so much for watching. May you achieve your dream car very, very, very soon. See ya.